Welcome to Overcoming Fear. Today we're going to finish up our examination of a statement from the Bible that's a starting point for what we're talking about for the rest of this series. God is love. Now, last time we mentioned it's easy to say God is love, but much harder to figure out what that means. The key to understanding what it means is to understand what love means. That can have all sorts of different meanings, and people can understand very different things. To understand what that Bible means when we read God is love, we're starting to look at what other parts of the Bible say about God's love. We identified two things and talked about the first one last time. Love goes out. Now, going out means sacrifice. When we go out, it means that we open up to other people. We choose not to exercise the power that we have. We make room for other people to be wrong, even if they're doing things that are harmful. We give up some of the rights that we're entitled to claim when we choose to go out. Now, going out is a vital part of opening and being in relationships with other people, but it's only one part. And really, one of the biggest mistakes that Christians make through almost since the very beginning of Christianity is to think that love only means going out. Going out is one part of love, but it's not all there is. And it's easy to understand why Christians could get the idea that going out is all that matters. Jesus, after all, was executed by the Roman Empire. And after that happened, his followers wrote that he didn't have to be executed. They explained that he had the power to overthrow the entire empire and take over the world if he chose to, but that he instead made the decision to hand himself over to torture and shame and despair and even death. And that contrast between Jesus' power and his sacrifice is right at the center of pretty much everything else in Christian thought. And because of that, Christians tend to describe following Jesus in terms of self-sacrifice, in terms of setting our power aside, in terms of making way and allowing others to have their way. The problem is if we stop there, we get a very incomplete idea and even a damaging understanding of what it means to love and what it means to follow Jesus. Because if we stop there, we get the idea that love means that we set aside ourselves and let other people have their way. It means we always give up what we want and let other people do what they want. And that opens up the door for exploitation, for victimization, and even for abuse. The second piece that keeps that from happening is integrity. Integrity is a necessary element of love as described in the Bible. Now, this is a little tricky because the word integrity doesn't directly show up in the Bible, but it's there from start to finish. Integrity means wholeness. So having integrity, loving with integrity, means that we love with our whole self. It means that when we go out, when we reach out to another person, we bring our whole self with us. We come to them as the person, the people that we truly are, and we put ourselves out there the way we are. So why is this hard? Why is it hard to be yourself when you go out to enter into a relationship with another person? Well, aside from the fact that we may be nervous about showing parts of ourselves to people, it's hard because who we are can make other people uncomfortable. Some parts of us, I won't even say can, there are parts of us that will make other people, any other person, uncomfortable. And the way most people respond to that discomfort is to try to make us uncomfortable so that we cover up whatever it is that they're having a problem with. Integrity means allowing that discomfort to exist. Integrity means having room for that discomfort without trying to hide who you are or who you value. Now, the Bible is filled with stories of people who lived with integrity. I'm going to pick an example from the book of Daniel. Now, the book of Daniel was written in a time when the kingdom of Judah had been under foreign rule for a long time, and when the people who became known as the Jewish people were under a lot of pressure to stop following the traditions and the principles that they knew to be right, the traditions and the principles that they had received from God. And so in that time, this story was presented to help people understand how to how to live with integrity when they're put under pressure. And so in this story, it's about King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, he's the king who overthrew the kingdom of Judah in the first place. He orders everyone in his kingdom to worship this giant golden statue. And 3 Jewish men named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they refuse to do it because only God is worthy of their worship. So the story goes like this. Furious, King Nebuchadnezzar ordered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be brought in. When the men were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar asked, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you don't respect my gods and refuse to worship the golden statue that I've set up? I'm giving you a second chance, but from now on, when the big band strikes up, you must go to your knees and worship the statue I have made. If you don't worship it, you will be pitched into a roaring furnace, no questions asked. And who is the God who can rescue you from my power?" Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered King Nebuchadnezzar, "Your threat means nothing to us. If you throw us in the fire, the God we serve can rescue us from your roaring furnace and anything else you might cook up, O king. But even if he doesn't, it wouldn't make a bit of difference, O king. We still wouldn't serve your gods or worship the gold statue you set up." So this is a story about integrity. This is a story about people who know who they are and how they need to live to be faithful to what they know is right. When they did that, when they stood up and refused to worship this statue that the king wanted everybody else to worship, they were very quickly threatened with a very extreme form of discomfort, being thrown into a furnace. And they responded by maintaining their integrity. They said clearly, directly, calmly, that they weren't telling the king what to do. They weren't trying to control the king, but they weren't going to allow the king to control them. Now, we probably don't think of this as a story about love, but that direct and clear statement of who they are is at the foundation of a real relationship. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they address the king and give him the option to interact with them as fellow human beings. He has the choice to accept the invitation or reject it, but they've taken the step to go out as they are. Now, what happens next? I'll just let you know they do get thrown in the furnace, and as you might expect in a story like this, they are not burned alive, and they're pulled out of the furnace with a lesson that for King Nebuchadnezzar. But here's a question for you today. These are the questions we have for today. Has there ever been a time when you had to make a hard choice? And as you think ask the question, what did you choose and how did you get to that choice? If you're by yourself, this is a time when you could take some notes. If you're with a group, then this is a good place to pause and have that conversation. Once you're done, the next question is this. This is an experiment. Go out this week or between now and the next time you watch the next video and have a conversation with someone you normally wouldn't talk to. That's it. Just find someone you normally wouldn't talk to and talk to them and just see what happens. That'll be something you can reflect on or maybe come back and talk about next week. And now look forward to sharing another video with you next week. God bless.